By the time my grandmother's casket is wheeled into the viewing room, I already know I am losing more than a person. I am watching an entire version of family die in slow motion, the one I invented just to survive, growing up with parents who loved appearances more than people. What I don't know yet, as I sit in the corner clutching her hand-knit scarf, is that in less than a day I will inherit everything my grandparents built, and my parents will decide that to them I am worth more as an enemy than as a daughter. The funeral parlor smells like artificial flowers and furniture polish too shiny and too sweet, like grief curated for a catalog. I tuck myself into the far corner chair, rubbing the soft yarn of Grandmother Lila's scarf between my fingers, as if I can summon her back through texture alone. Across the room, my mother dabs at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, letting out perfectly timed sobs that echo against the dark mahogany paneling. Every few minutes, she glides to the bathroom and returns with fresh mascara and her phone clutched in her manicured hand. I watch her tilt her head by the casket, the soft click of her camera barely audible as she whispers, "This lighting is terrible," before reviewing her mournful poses for social media. Near the entrance, my father stands with the funeral director voice clipped and impatient as he gestures at the invoice. "These charges are completely unreasonable," he hisses, thumbs tapping at his phone. "My stock alerts do not stop just because we are having a family situation." A family situation. That is what death is to him now, an inconvenient blip between portfolio updates. My younger brother Cole slouches in a chair bent over his phone, the blue glow of his cryptocurrency app reflected in his glasses. He has not looked up in 20 minutes, not even when distant relatives approach with condolences that slide right off him. I close my eyes and flee to safer memories. Weekends in the modest craftsman house at Gig Harbor, the smell of cinnamon rolls on Sunday mornings, Grandpa Walter's steady hands guiding mine as he showed me how to change the oil in his first delivery truck. "Hadley girl," he used to say, "knowing how things work matters more than knowing how to buy new ones." In my mind, I can feel the grease under my nails, hear Grandma humming in the kitchen, her world built from purpose instead of performance. A tear slips down my cheek, hot and real, and it startles me. In this room full of staged emotion, genuine grief feels almost out of place. After the burial, we file into Aaron Feldman's office, the family attorney's wood-paneled sanctuary, lined with leather-bound law books and the faint ghost of pipe tobacco. My mother claims the central chair with the instinct of someone choosing a throne, arranging her posture like she is sitting for a portrait instead of a legal reading. My father positions himself behind her hands, gripping the chair back as if it is already his. I was thinking we could list the Harbor House immediately. My mother muses, inspecting her nails. That view will fetch a premium. The boat should sell quickly, too. My father adds, nodding. Cole finally looks up from his screen long enough to say, "I have buyers interested in Grandpa's truck fleet. My startup could really use that capital." Aaron clears his throat, cutting through their planning. As executor of Walter and Lila Monroe's estate, he says I am required to read their final wishes exactly as written. Legal language washes over us, clauses and bequests. I barely register until he hits a line that snags the room like barbed wire. I hereby bequeath my entire estate, valued at just over $31 million, to my granddaughter, Hadley Elizabeth Martin. The silence that follows is almost physical. I blink, sure I misheard. The entire estate, my father repeats, voice dangerously quiet. There must be some mistake. My mother breathes, her social media smile disintegrating. Cole shoots to his feet, eyes blazing as he glares at me. "What did you do?" he demands. "How did you manipulate them?" The accusation stings worse than a slap. I did not. I manage my voice thin. I had no idea. Aaron raises a hand and turns his laptop toward us. "Your grandparents anticipated this reaction," he says. "They asked me to play something." On screen, Grandma and Grandpa sit together on their porch swing, looking tired but resolute. "If you are watching this," Grandpa begins, "then our decision has come as a shock to some of you." Grandma's gentle voice follows, steady but edged with steel. Gregory Serena Cole. We have watched how you speak about us when you think we are not listening, how you plan for our money while we are still living. My throat tightens as years of small moments click into place, like a combination lock finally turning. She talks about being dropped off at their house, while my parents chase networking events about me helping Walter maintain a small fleet of trucks that quietly became the backbone of a shipping empire, about afternoons spent baking and gardening and talking about life that meant something. Hadley is the only one who ever loved us for ourselves, Grandma says softly, not for what we could give her. When the video ends, the room feels skewed, the air too thin. In the parking lot, my father corners me against my car, his breath hot and sour with anger. "You will transfer control to me tomorrow," he murmurs. "You can keep 12%. My mother slides in beside him, her concern as polished as her jewelry. "Darling, this kind of money requires experience to manage. You simply are not equipped." Cole looms behind them, adding, "Remember what family loyalty means." Hadley, remember who takes care of who. I grip my car keys so tightly the metal bites into my palm. "I need time to think," I say, my voice shaking but still standing. My father's eyes go cold. "Remember who owns your apartment building," he warns. "Remember who can make one phone call and leave you homeless." That night in my tiny studio where everything I own fits into one room, panic claws at my chest. My school counselor's salary barely covers rent. I have no savings, no backup plan, no idea how to protect an empire I never even knew existed. I am pacing when my phone rings. Aaron's voice is urgent. "Hadley, your father is already talking to the landlord. They might try to lock you out without notice. It is illegal, but that will not stop them. You need to leave now." Tears blur my vision as I throw closed documents and my grandmother's scarf into a backpack. My hands shake so badly I fumble the zipper twice. I never imagined inheriting a fortune could make me feel more vulnerable than I have ever been in my life. But as I wrap the scarf around my neck, I can almost hear Grandma's whisper in my ear, "Stand your ground, Hadley girl. Some things are worth fighting for." Rain pelts the windshield the next morning as I pull up to the Gig Harbor house, the craftsman wrapped in cedar and stone modest among the glass mansions that have grown up around it. 24 hours ago, I was fleeing my apartment. Now I'm standing at the gate of a property worth millions that apparently belongs to me. Before I can knock, the front door opens and Miguel Alvarez fills the frame, his weathered face lined with fresh grief. He has managed the estate for 15 years, more family than employee. "Miss Hadley," he says, voice breaking slightly. "Welcome home?" Inside the house smells like lemon oil and cinnamon like her. Miguel presses a small brass key into my palm. "Your grandmother asked me to give you this if things went this way." The key fits a drawer in Grandpa's heavy oak desk. Inside lies a worn leather journal tied with a faded ribbon. Curled in Grandpa's reading chair, I open the first page and meet my grandmother's handwriting. "Gregory came today asking for another loan," she writes. "He says his investment is guaranteed to triple. We wrote the check. Walter suspects we will not see that money again. Entry after entry traces the same pattern. Unpaid loans, quiet lies, small thefts, disguised as entitlement." My stomach twists. When the door creaks open, June. Porter, the housekeeper who has been here longer than I have been alive, steps in with a tray of tea and red-rimmed eyes. "You are reading Mrs. Lila's journals," she says simply. "Did you know about all this?" I whisper. June sets the tea down and disappears, returning with a banker's box heavy enough to shake the desk when she places it. Financial records, she explains, loan agreements your father never repaid, startup proposals from your brother that all defaulted. On top, she lays a folder of property transfer documents my mother tried to push through 3 months before Grandma died, claiming they were updated estate plans. We spread the papers out, and the truth stares back for years. My family has been slowly bleeding my grandparents dry, and the only people who tried to stop it are gone. I look around at the study, at the journal in my lap and the evidence on the desk, and realize the inheritance Grandma and Grandpa left me is not just money. It is a war that has already begun, and whether I like it or not, I am the one now standing on the front line. June and I are still sorting through the box when the doorbell rings, the sound slicing through the quiet house like a warning. A moment later, June returns with two people I recognize from old stories and framed photos: Marcus Shaw, Grandpa's financial advisor of 2 decades, and Evelyn Park, his business partner at Summit Freight. Marcus's salt and pepper hair is thinner than in the pictures, but his handshake is steady as he says, "Hadley, I am so sorry for your loss, and also we have a lot to discuss." Evelyn's posture is straight as a lamppost, her silver hair pulled back, her eyes sharp as she sets down a stack of manila folders and says, "Summit employees are already hearing rumors. Someone is asking questions about shipping routes and client contracts. Someone wants what Walter built." Aaron arrives next, legal pads tucked under his arm tie, loosened like he has been running instead of walking. "I figured they would not wait long," he says without preamble, "so I drafted some emergency protective measures." They gather with Miguel and June around the dining room table, spreading out documents the way other families might spread out food. Marcus shows me the portfolio. Grandpa never bragged about diversified investments and quiet real estate holdings that turned one delivery truck into an empire. Evelyn flips through operations reports, her finger tapping the margin where unfamiliar inquiries have appeared. Miguel adds his records of payroll, property maintenance, and an inventory of everything inside the house. June slides forward copies of my mother's attempted property transfers, her neat notes in the margins, documenting dates and conversations. My phone vibrates and I glance down to see a voicemail transcription from my father. "You have no idea what you are up against. Hadley, this can still end with everyone happy or it can get very ugly. Your choice." The words make my stomach turn. While Aaron is explaining how to file for emergency protective orders, the doorbell rings again. This time, it is a courier with a plain manila envelope, no return address. Inside are my childhood photos with my face crossed out in red marker, along with a few grainy printouts of me at college parties, someone's handwritten notes circling my expression and adding the word "unstable" in the margins. Aaron's mouth hardens as he slips the photos into an evidence bag. "They are trying to paint you as unfit," he says, "but they are sloppy and predictable. We will file for the protective orders immediately." The next morning, the headlines hit. A local news site runs a piece titled, "Family Questions Suspicious Inheritance," quoting anonymous relatives who claim my grandmother's mental capacity was compromised in her final months. My mother appears on a morning show, eyes wet and voice tremulous, as she tells the host she is worried about elder exploitation and just wants to honor her parents' true wishes. Cole launches a social media page called Justice for the Monroe Legacy, calling for support in overturning an unjust will. People I have known my whole life flock to the comments with opinions based on half-truths and curated pain. My school principal leaves a message saying my mother came by to express concerns about my stability. He assures me he does not buy it, but the humiliation still lands like a punch. Miguel knocks on the study door that afternoon, tablet in hand, and says quietly, "Mrs. Lila thought this might happen. She installed security cameras last year and never told anyone but me." On Grandpa's computer, he pulls up footage from the night of the funeral. We watch my father and Cole moving through the house, checking values on their phones as they lift paintings off the walls and wrap smaller items in jackets. My mother photographs silver candlesticks before slipping them into a tote bag, wiping away fake tears between shots. They were stealing from this house while the flowers on the casket were still fresh. My throat thickens as Miguel clicks to another file. Grandma sitting at her desk recording a video diary saying, "I know what Gregory and Serena are capable of. I have started documenting everything. If Hadley ever needs this, I want her to have the truth in my own words." By the time the security system chimes again that evening, my nerves are raw. Miguel glances at the monitor and says, "They are at the gate, all of them." I move to the front window and see 3 cars lined up along the wrought iron. My father's Mercedes, my mother's gleaming SUV, Cole's electric car humming quietly behind them. "Should I call Aaron?" Miguel asks. I straighten my shoulders. Grandma's scarf warm around my neck and hear Grandpa's voice in my head about finding your backbone when everyone expects you to fold. No, I answer, I will handle this. At the intercom, my father's voice booms, professional and commanding as always. Hadley, open the gates. We are here to collect family heirlooms that rightfully belong to all of us. I press the speaker button and say I will meet you at the front steps. Summer sunlight beats down on the wide limestone as I step outside alone, the new security system Aaron installed, quietly humming along the roofline cameras, blinking like unblinking eyes. The gates swing open, and my family steps through like they are entering a hostile takeover rather than a home. My father walks ahead, briefcase in hand expression, carefully controlled, except for the flicker of greed in his eyes. This has gone far enough, he announces we are here for great-grandmother's silver service and the Tiffany lamps to start. Those items were specifically listed in the will as part of my inheritance. I reply, my voice surprisingly steady. A will we are contesting. My mother interjects concern, slipping through her practiced tone. Sweetheart, you are in over your head. Let us manage things until the court's sorted out. Cole tries to shoulder past me toward the front door with a muttered, I will just grab my stuff from my old room, but he stops short as red lights blink and a low tone sounds. Trespassing prevention measures. I say Aaron added them when we filed the emergency orders. Every step you take on this property is being recorded to a secure server. As if summoned, Miguel appears from the side path carrying a leather binder. Miss Hadley, he says loudly enough for the driveway to hear, I have brought the complete inventory of household items and their provenance as you requested. June emerges behind him, gray bun tight voice, even as she says, I witnessed Mr. and Mrs. Martin and Mr. Cole removing items after the funeral. I've already given a sworn statement to Mr. Feldman. A moment later, Aaron's car pulls up and he steps out with a thick envelope. Perfect timing, he says. I was coming to update Hadley on the restraining orders, but since you are all here, I can serve these directly. My father's face reddens as Aaron approaches. From across the street, Mrs. Henderson from the Neighborhood Watch stands with her phone held high and calls, We called the media Gregory. We look after our own here. A local news van slows near the curb camera, already swiveling toward the scene. My mother lowers herself theatrically onto the grass, hand to her forehead as she moans my own daughter, treating us like criminals. But for once, nobody rushes to her side. Summit drivers in company polos invited by Evelyn stand quietly near the fence line. I take a breath and let my voice carry. This ends today. I say every word and action is being recorded. You chose to treat Grandma and Grandpa like accounts to drain not people to love. You will not do that to what they left behind. My father glares at the growing audience, then at the papers in Aaron's hand. This is not over, he spits, but he is already backing toward his car. My mother's miraculous recovery from her faint is swift once she sees the news camera. Cole lingers for a moment, looking at me with something like doubt in his eyes, then drops his gaze and follows them. When their cars finally disappear down the hill and the gate closes, my knees almost buckle with the adrenaline crash. Aaron squeezes my shoulder. This was the first battle, he says quietly, not the last. I know, I answer, clutching Grandma's scarf. But for the first time since the will reading, I feel the ground solid beneath my feet. I am not just the girl who inherited their fortune. I am the guardian of their story, and I am done letting other people write it for me. That night, the house feels both safer and lonelier. The rain has stopped leaving the scent of wet cedar and earth hanging in the air. I can't sleep, so I sit in Grandpa's study, the flicker of the fireplace reflecting off the polished wood. On his desk lies a small cardboard box June found in the attic that afternoon, labeled in Grandma's neat handwriting in case of Gregory. Inside are organized folders, each one a map of betrayal, letters, bank statements, even recorded conversations transcribed by hand. At the bottom is a leather-bound book, older and softer than the rest. It's Grandpa's original business ledger from the early days of Summit Freight, its ink slightly faded, but his signature still bold. When everyone says you'll fail, one entry reads, "That's when you find your backbone. Morning comes with purpose." Aaron returns early, bringing coffee and legal pads. "We need to consolidate," he says. They'll file motions fast, maybe even claim diminished capacity again. Marcus joins us, spreading spreadsheets and financial statements across the table. Summit Freight is strong, he assures me, but your father's been calling clients, implying instability. Evelyn strides in crisp and no nonsense as ever. Our drivers are nervous, she reports, but loyal. They want to know who's steering this ship. Then I'll tell them, I say, before I can second-guess it. The words surprise me, but they feel right. That afternoon, I stand before a room of Summit Freight employees, drivers with calloused hands, office staff with tired eyes, mechanics still in oil-stained shirts. My grandparents built this company on two things. I begin integrity and community. That hasn't changed, and it never will. Evelyn steps forward beside me, announcing the new profit-sharing program Marcus designed. Applause fills the room, genuine, grateful grounding. For the first time, I feel like I'm not just inheriting a business, but a purpose. When I get home that evening, Miguel meets me at the door, tablet in hand again. "Miss Hadley," he says, his expression tight. The security cameras picked up something. On-screen headlights flare in the driveway around midnight. My father's voice, muffled but clear, says, "She'll crack eventually. Everyone does." My mother's softer reply follows. "If we can prove instability, the court will reopen the case." Cole's voice joins, uncertain. "Maybe we should just stop, Dad. It's making us look crazy." My father cuts him off. "You stay out of this." Miguel pauses the video, shaking his head. "They came to threaten you again." Aaron arrives within the hour. "We'll use this," he says grimly. "Judge Carter will approve the permanent restraining orders now." He hesitates before adding, "They're unraveling Hadley." That video is proof. Days blur into a rhythm of defense and rebuilding. Evelyn manages company operations. Marcus oversees finances. June keeps the house steady, her quiet presence like a heartbeat. I meet with lawyers, accountants, and the community college board to establish the Monroe Foundation. Each decision feels like reclaiming something my grandparents built and my parents tried to erase. But the harassment doesn't stop. Anonymous letters arrive at Summit offices questioning my mental health. Fake social media posts accuse me of manipulation. Even my school receives calls from concerned relatives. My students whisper, and I force a smile I don't feel. One morning, a courier delivers a thick folder labeled "Evidence of Manipulation." Inside are doctored photos and forged medical reports implying undue influence. I flip to the last page and laugh. Despite myself, they accidentally included copies of my father's own threatening emails to Grandma, complete with timestamps and signatures. When I call Aaron, he exhales in relief. "They've just handed us the rope they'll hang themselves with," he says. "We'll forward it all to the court." Weeks pass. The news cycle begins to shift, the public growing tired of my parents' dramatics. Still, my father plans a final strike. A public confrontation at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon, the same event my grandfather founded decades ago. "He'll try to humiliate you," Aaron warns. "Be calm. Let the truth speak." The banquet hall smells of polished silver and old money. My father stands near the stage, radiating confidence as he greets business acquaintances. My mother hovers beside him, perfect in her pearls, ready for a camera. I enter with Evelyn and Marcus. The whispers start immediately. Curiosity, gossip, pity. My father spots me and raises his voice. "There she is, the girl destroying our family legacy." He calls his tone sharp enough to slice the chatter. "Walter would be ashamed of what you've done to Summit Freight." Before I can answer, Chamber President Jack Wilson steps to the podium, tapping his glass. "Actually, Gregory," he says smoothly, "we're honoring Summit Freight today for 40 years of business integrity and community service founded by Walter and Lila Monroe, now continued under their granddaughter, Hadley Martin." The applause that follows is thunderous. My father's face drains of color as I rise to accept the award. My grandparents taught me that wealth without integrity is just vanity. I say into the microphone, my voice steady. Their legacy isn't measured in dollars, but in the lives they uplifted. I intend to honor that. The standing ovation feels like air after drowning. In the crowd, Summit drivers cheer the community college dean, nods proudly, and even Evelyn's eyes glisten. My parents stand frozen, cornered by their own reflection in the light of who my grandparents really were. That night, the story spreads across local news. Summit Freight's revival, the foundation's new scholarship fund, the granddaughter defending her family's integrity. A crack appears in my mother's armor first. She calls near midnight, her voice shaking. "Hadley," she says through tears, "I never wanted it to go this far. Your father, he's not himself. You have to believe me." I say nothing, and the silence stretches until she whispers, "I'm sorry," and hangs up. The next morning, Cole texts me, "Dad took loans in my name." I didn't know. Can we talk? I stare at the message, wondering if this is guilt or strategy. Aaron calls later, almost amused. Gregory's attorney wants mediation without him present. They're fracturing. Keep steady, Hadley. The storm's almost over. That night, I sit on the porch swing where my grandparents filmed their final message. The same swing where Grandma once told me, "Courage doesn't feel like confidence. It feels like standing still when everything in you wants to run." The garden glows faintly under moonlight, roses blooming even after all the rain. "You were right," I whisper. "Some things are worth fighting for." The final confrontation happens on a Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. sharp. I've arranged everything, documents printed. Witnesses confirmed Grandma's scarf draped neatly around my neck like armor. The antique pocket watch that once belonged to Grandpa ticks softly on the polished table in front of me. Aaron sits beside me, composed but alert. Miguel waits near the door, ready to escort my family inside. Judge Elaine Carter, who's presiding over the estate case, sits opposite us, her notes already open. Daniel Brooks, retired police chief and Grandpa's old fishing buddy, stands near the window, calm and quietly watchful. Car doors slam outside. A few seconds later, the front door opens, and the sound of expensive shoes fills the hall. My father enters first, exuding the same boardroom confidence that used to make people shrink back. My mother follows, smile, bright but brittle. Cole trails behind, hands in his pockets, eyes down. "What is this?" my father demands, glancing around. "We agreed to a family meeting, not a tribunal." "We agreed to mediation," I reply evenly, gesturing to the table. "These are the mediators I've selected." "Hadley," my mother says with a brittle laugh, "surely we can speak privately. Dear family matters should stay within family." I meet her gaze. "Family matters should involve actual family. Please sit." For a moment, no one moves. Then, seeing the judge's calm stare and Daniel's quiet authority, they sit. Aaron distributes thick folders across the table. Exhibit A. He begins opening his laptop. The television screen behind us comes to life, showing the footage from the night of the funeral, my father and Cole loading framed paintings into the back of a Mercedes, my mother wrapping silver candlesticks in her scarf before hurrying them out the door. "These are family heirlooms," my father says sharply, though his voice wavers. "We were safeguarding them." Exhibit B. Aaron continues ignoring the protest. Financial documents appear next. Unpaid loans. Shell companies transfers totaling over $4 million to my father's failed ventures. Exhibit C, he says, flipping forward to my mother's attempted property transfers while Grandma was hospitalized, complete with forged signatures. Cole's face is pale now, his hands trembling slightly. The judge's pen scratches steadily against her notepad. Finally, Aaron opens Grandma's leather journal and begins to read aloud, "Gregory demanded another $100,000 today." When I reminded him of previous unpaid loans, he implied we wouldn't want Cole to know certain family matters. "Walter and I have decided Hadley is our only hope for preserving what we've built." The words hang in the air like smoke. My mother begins to cry softly, mascara streaking down her cheeks. My father's jaw clenches so tightly I can see the muscle jumping. "You manipulated them," he snarls. "You turned them against us." "No," I say quietly. "Your own actions did that. They left you every chance to change, and you used every one of them to take more." I slide a final folder across the table. "This is my offer, a small trust fund for each of you, enough to live comfortably. But you must return everything taken from this house and cease all contact with me, Summit Freight, or the Monroe Foundation. Violate it and the charges for theft, elder abuse, and fraud move forward immediately. All of it's documented and witnessed here today. My father laughs bitterly, but the sound cracks halfway through. You've turned everyone against us, he spits. No, Dad, I say, steady now. You did that all by yourself. The room goes silent except for the ticking of Grandpa's watch. Finally, my father snatches the pen Aaron offers and signs. My mother hesitates, sobbing, then follows suit. Cole lingers, looking between them and me, eyes full of something unreadable regret, maybe, or fear. When he finally signs, the sound of his pen scratching paper feels like the closing of a door. When it's over, my parents stand. My father's face is colorless, his shoulders sagging in defeat. You think you've won, he says, voice low and trembling. You've destroyed this family. I didn't destroy it, I reply. I'm just done pretending it was whole. They leave without another word. Cole pauses at the doorway, meeting my eyes one last time before following them. When the front door shuts, I let out a long, shuddering breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Judge Carter nods approvingly, signing the final pages. You did well, Miss Martin. Integrity always costs something, but it's worth the price. Daniel gives a small smile. Walter would have been proud, he says softly. He always said standing your ground isn't about being loud, it's about knowing when enough is enough. I touch the scarf at my neck, feeling the faint texture of Grandma's yarn between my fingers. I never wanted their money, I whisper. I just wanted to be family. Aaron closes the folder gently. That's exactly why your grandparents trusted you with it. Outside engines start. The sound of tires fades down the long drive until only birdsong and the ticking of the clock remain. I glance around the room at the photographs of my grandparents, smiling at the sunlight spilling across the wood floors. The house feels lighter now, as if it can finally breathe. I am my grandparents' legacy, not their money, not their possessions, but their values. And some boundaries once drawn must never be crossed again. 6 months later, life finds a new rhythm. I still arrive at school by 7:30 a.m. The brass nameplate on my office door, Hadley Martin Student Counselor, still the title I value most. The Monroe Foundation thrives quietly in the background, funding vocational training and scholarships for students who remind me of who I once was, scared, overlooked, and underestimated. Summit Freight announces record profits under its new employee ownership model.